Lou, thanks for coming in today. We're doing a special video here that is about Jud Logan, who sadly passed away. Jud was a hammer thrower, highly decorated athlete and coach. He was a 4-time Olympian. He competed in the 84, 88, 92 and the 2000 Olympic Games at the age of 41. His dad and brother played for OSU, and his dad went on to play for the Green Bay Packers. He was the head track and field coach at Ashland University. When he came to Westside, Lou, I have a few of the stats you put out in 2 of your articles. The first article was the reactive method, and the second one was explosive length training, where Jud had a 440-pound power clean, a 770-pound back squat, 478-pound bench, and a 56-inch box jump at 285 for 5 reps. And this is where I want to get more information from you. He brought in some information from his East German friends who suggested to push up his box jump. How much of a difference did that make to training, and how much information did you get from Jud?
Well, the difference was he didn't have all those big lifts, and then he pushed him up to those, and then his jumps, his throws never went anywhere. That's when he talked to the East German buddies, and they told him to push the box jumps. And I think he did on the 56, like 5 sets of 5.
Oh, wow.
He weighed 285 pounds. That's when his hammer took back off, build explosive power. You know, and that was the whole key. And I learned a lot from Jud. He comes to learn my seminars, but I make it a point to learn from people. You know, I don't sit there and, and be the main, light in the room. I want to learn something from people. I want them to, that's how they pay me. And he told me about those box jumps, and I've used them ever since. It's made a tremendous difference.
How many other athletes were doing that? So after you learned that from Jud, did you get people on it straight away, or how did you integrate them?
I had 2 high school girls jump on in 54 and 55, girls. So all you football teams and high school football teams, get your boys to start jumping a little bit. Jumping is explosive power. It's the steepest increase in strength, and the shortest possible time is explosive strength. And that's the key to sports. Moving first, boxing. Everybody's, the guys that have a step ahead wins the fight.
What was the difference that the box jumping made?
Explosive power, displaying your strength. It's one thing to have a lot of horsepower, but you got to take off in first gear. You can't take off in 5th gear. You have to take off in first gear.
Was that a coaching tester that if you knew if their box jumping went up, their explosive power went up?
Yeah, so what I did was I trained about 12 guys to go to the NFL Combine. I wanted to go to the NFL Combine and come here. The first one was from Oklahoma, and he's a big lineman. He had a 5'4" 40, and they told him if he knocked a 10th off, he'd play. Yeah. Well, I had him 2 months, and at the end of 2 months, he ran a 5'1" 40. And basically, he did speed squats with us, max effort. The major difference was I made them do 40 jumps twice a week. All right, we changed the jumps every time. Ankle weights, weight vests, combinations, kettlebells, all kind of records. So every time we went in, we tried to break a record. And like I said, at the end of the thing, he broke his record. I never ran him one time. I brought in at least 10 more, and I averaged 3 tenths in 2 seconds. Anyone don't believe me, I'll bring people to high state and I will prove this. But no one wants to do it, because it sounds too simple and they can't make any money. I'm not charging $20,000 to take a half a tenth off, So when they came here, they all did it, and I used the same procedure for every single one of them. It worked every time.
You talk about the...
go ahead. No running. They would go up to high state and do lineman drills and linebacker drills, and that's how I did it. I had a guy come here, play 5 years for the Raiders. Lineman, big guy, 330, 40-pound guy. He spent a weekend here, and I worked up with a bunch of band stuff with him. And on that weekend, after playing in the NFL for 5 years, he got this longest standing long jump of his career. Now, how did I do that in 3 days? And he'd been in the NFL for 5 years. But he wrote a thesis about band training. Yeah. And I was pretty proud of that. I mean, that's why I don't want to pass the information along. Don't do it good if you can't pass things along, right?
Yeah. So how important was it when he came back to Jud when his lifts went up? So he came and just say his max strength went up. Was it important to move the speed with it along the way?
It's all got to go up together. Yeah, well, if one without the other, you have nothing, If you're a powerhouse, that makes why a couple of linemen in the NFL told me all linemen in the NFL is a powerlifter. They could play football. You got to be explosive and fast. Yeah. They just can't be slow and all that. So you need and you need every spatial strength. That's why it's called spatial strength. You got to be explosive. You got to be able to accelerate, and you got to have maximal strength.
How important was the information coming over from overseas?
Oh, very. Everything I've ever learned come from overseas. You know, I'm reading bodybuilding magazines, which get me nowhere. I'm reading the workout of the month, which who gives a damn, because the guy wasn't any good at wrote the articles. You know, I mean, he's a novice lifter. What do I care what he's writing? And then that's what made me start writing articles. You know, I was strong. I had strong guys, and I'm going, this stuff is crap. Someone's got to get some truth out here, and that's why I started writing articles. And that's where I'm at today, you know, for many, many different books. And but mostly Powerlifting USA. And, you know, now we've got, 11, 12 books out, and I've got a couple more coming out. And it's all information that I learned by experimenting.
Yeah.
I didn't just write it, take it out of a book and write it, you know, just believe it worked. It works because I bring it in. I take a couple groups and I test them, like with bands or chains and all these things over the years, the box jumps, sled pulls, how far. I always recommend 60 yards or 60 meters for sled. Why? Because that's what the NFL guys told me, and also sprinters. So it's good enough for them. It's good enough for me. You know what I mean? I'm not going to tell them what to do. You tell me what to do, and I'll push it on to others. All right? And now I think sled, like, it's a different subject, but sled pulling is one of the greatest things I've ever come across.
Where did you find out about that?
My knee was all banged up, and a guy called Eskil Thomasson, who was in Sweden, he's visiting for a while. Then he moved here 10 years. But we wanted to know why the Finns had so many deadlifters. So he goes back. Well, he did some research. He went to Finland. And my friend Sakari's there anyhow. But he checked them out, and most of the deadlifters were lumberjacks. And I said, what do you do? I said, we don't do nothing. We just pull this wood out of the, chop wood, and pull the wood out down to the trail where the tractor gets. It's not as modern as it is over here. And they pulled it between their legs and over their shoulders and backwards and you name it. So I said, well, hell, it's good enough for them. I'll give it a shot. To rehab my knee, I went from my 821 squat after blowing my patella in half and retiring for 4 years to come back squat 920, second best in the world. And I did it because of sled driving. I passed it on to Eddie Cohen. When Eddie tore his knee off, I immediately sit him a sled. Eddie's mentioned that, and that's my job. That's what are your job? My job is to help people.
When you first started, was there a sled, or did you start with weight plates, dragging them, and then
pulled a 100-pound plate with a chain? But that didn't work too good. It was one of the things out real quick. So then we made our first sled, and also wheelbarrow. Wheelbarrow is tremendous.
Yeah.
And I push a wheelbarrow because wheelbarrow is like crutching with a wheel. If you got a bad knee, you can put 40 pounds, 40% of your pressure on the bad leg, and then 45, then 50, then once you get to 50-50. And real methodical steps. You stand on your bad leg for a long time. It gets bad, set the damn thing down. And then presume it for another set.
Yeah. When, back in that day, do you remember who the training partners were in when Jud was in training? Like what group was there?
My gym?
Yeah.
Chuck Vogelpohl and Rob Fusner and Kenny Patterson, George Howard, all the real strong guys. Matt Smith had just started, all these guys.
And they're all able to train together?
Yes, we all train together. You see it on our training tapes.
Yeah.
The guy called me this morning, watched one of our, you must have put out one of our squat workouts.
Yeah.
He's watching us.
It seems though that
I want to say just a couple things.
Yeah.
And it's not about me, but maybe it is. But Donnie Thomas, he's in one of my tapes, had 920 squat. Okay? And the guy that sells all the, what's his name? Spud.
Yeah.
He had like less than that. Well, Donnie went on actually to squat 1267, 1265, I think, and Spud went over 11s. And it's all the same process. It's exactly how we train. It's how you train. You don't see a new NFL team come out and just train completely different than the rest of the NFL. They're going to carbon copy the NFL.
Might be a bad idea though.
Yeah.
With the injury risk.
With the injuries.
Yeah.
Yeah, the injury's ridiculous. That's another story. Ridiculous. Weak things break, Tom.
For sure.
Weak things break.
As simple as it is, it's the truth. Mm-hmm. Well, on that, we got a bunch of kindergarten kids, our schools that had that banner in the background to get them into strength training, which is like the Rule of 3 book. That's pretty cool to see, but that's a different podcast too. But when I went back just reading articles and researching for today, it really seems like the hardcore research that was done back then holds as true today as it did when you first found out, which is, it's crazy to think. And you go back to the Soviet books, the training books, the science of practice of strength training. You're like, there's nothing that's coming out now is like as good as that.
Well, there's new math and there's no new physics.
Yeah.
It's all the same,
How important was that? Like to where you have these training group, you have these guys, and you get these different people. You get a hammer thrower in, you get a football player in. Did that make everything better rather than just having powerlifters directly? Or do you think it would have been the same?
It all fit together.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talk about technique. A good coach can teach technique, right? But a master coach can tell you why you use this technique. That's the difference between a master coach and a coach.
Well,
a guy in my gym, Jimmy Seitzer, Mr. USA, second and fit to Mr. Universe or Mr. America, and he was 2 elite totals. And a guy come in and say something. He says, "I don't understand what you guys are doing." And Jimmy said, who'd been here for years, said, "I don't know either. I just do it." Well, that's a poor explanation of what I'm doing. He should have learned what the hell I'm doing, and so he could pass it on. I'll never forget that.
But you said a lot of things when I first came in here, some I can't say online. But one was that a coach should learn more from the athlete. And then if you're doing your right, you should make the athlete better than you.
Sure.
So then everyone's self-sufficient. So when everything was going on, you'd walk in the gym, you're like, what is going on? And you used to give it a few weeks because it was helter-skelter everywhere. Mm-hmm. But then you understand that all you do is suggest and analyze. You never criticize. You're like, hey, you should do this, or you'd show someone to do this. And I remember AJ Roberts was like, that's not going to fucking work. He was benching 8s at the time, and he was like 7. He goes, his elbows are sore, and they're sore because they're weak. And remember, he got angry and whatever. But then it comes back in, he's like, I fucking hate it. The old man's always right. But it seems like your coaching technique is very different than what people think coaching should be. Did you learn that from trial and error, or was that just the way it was from the start?
I didn't want to be coached. You want told what to do? I don't. Everybody gets a group. You learn the basic fundamentals. Then, like you said, you work on the flaws.
Yeah.
It's like a fight. If you're going to take a fight, if I'm going to fight your guy, and we watch this, he's really good at this, so I'm going to have to be able to counteract this, and I have to change my training a little bit. So you come in the gym, and you're not sitting back in the squat. I realize right away you've got no glutes or lower back.
Yeah.
If you're forward, your knees coming in, you got no hips. The bar flies over your face. You're weak. Your arms are weak. You're going back over. Always go over the strongest muscle, which eventually will get broke. So the shortest line between 2 discs is a straight line. So you build your arms to press the barbell in a straight line, almost like a decline. You won't get injuries. If your elbow don't rotate, you don't have rotator problems. So I learned all this over the years, and being around just super strong guys and talking to the strongest men and some of the smartest men also, the strongest and the smartest.
Yeah.
And I learned from both of them.
It's unique too, depending on the personality. There's some people where you'll explain, give them a book and go, hey, this is what this is, and they'll go off and do it. And there's others, you don't say a word, you have them follow somebody, and then by doing it, they realize they're weak at it, and they don't want to be weaker than that person.
Right.
How did you figure that out?
Just by trial and error and getting in the gym when I started. I had a training partner for 6 years, and I had 6.
Yeah.
And most of them was PhDs. They were very smart guys.
Yeah.
And got them in there. I mean, as it turned out, they were also very strong guys. And, so we all had a little different, most gyms will have this. If you go to a gym, you have big squatters and no benchers, or big benchers and no squatter. It's so funny because they just migrate to the same training, but you can't do that. You got to work on your own training. Like you were saying, what do you need? It just don't matter what got me where I am, what you need. A story Larry Pacifica told me years ago, I had a 340 bench, 172 pounds, raw. And he goes, Louie, you got to train your triceps. I go to every meet. I probably like a 320 bench. I got up to 340. Out of pure determination, I go back and train my arms. My bench would go backwards because I was out of shape. I said, well, hell with this. I'm not doing this. Next meet, I get 5. Larry, you've been training your arms? Well, Larry's about. I said, Lou, you got to train your arms. Says 75% of your bench. So finally, there was a meet came up, and they canceled it. I said, well, hell, I'll go ahead and train my arms. For once in my life, my bench jumped 20 pounds. All right, another guy told me he worked beside Dallas, me and Gary Sanger, another 20 pounds raw. But then I saw Bill Sino, the guy won Mr. Best Chest in Mr. America several times, built like crazy, 242. And he tells me, I said, Mr. Sino, can you help me? This guy grabs, I thought he was going to freaking kill me.
Yeah.
I mean, he's grabbing on me and doing this. He goes, you need to bench illegal. Now, Larry always said, bench close, train your arms. So I'm thinking, what the hell, I'm just thinking about this. He said, you want to bench illegal 6s and 8s. I hated the 10s. You want to go 6, 8s, 10s, back to 6. I normally did tons of 6s. But in a year and a half, from 172 to 175, I touched to go 450. But I went back and I got to thinking, I used Bill's method, ultra wide, to build part of my body, and then I did millions of extensions like Larry told me, and it worked. So see, sometimes you have to do combinations of training.
How did you tie that in with how you rotated? How long did you know to keep the exercise in?
I would push the sixes up until I couldn't make progress to start back over. Come back up, I'd always elevate a little higher. And at the end of the workout, I'd take singles. So I always take a single at the end of the workout. You watch our guys down there, we'll take a squat workout, then we take a single. We didn't come in fully rested on bullshit, because that's not how it works in the meet. But we can go in, do a big workout, and then break our all-time record in the same workout. That's GPP.
Yeah.
These guys, why do you need GPP? Because that's why we can deadlift in millions of meets, and you can't. You have no energy to deadlift. We have, I think, 33 guys over 8.
Yeah.
I had 2 guys that could deadlift 1,000, and they both, resigned before they did it. And my big regret was not having a 1,000-pound deadlift. We got the top squat in the world, the biggest benches in the world, biggest totals in the world, but I always wanted that deadlift.
Yeah. Well, too, it seemed like the way everyone trained here was to be the best in the worst day possible. Mm-hmm. That no matter what happened, is that they knew that if they felt terrible, because they trained when they felt terrible, they trained when they felt tired, they knew what it was, except compared to people who come in here, think they're in shape, they get halfway through a squat workout and they're on the ground gasping for air.
Yeah, they're in the bathroom.
Yeah.
I can't even believe it. And nowadays in my life, I can't believe someone's in the bathroom thrown up in my gym. Some visitor. I'm like, this is what we do every week.
Well, and that's what people, they misunderstand, and they don't see the importance of GPP and what actual high GPP is.
Yeah, most people think you get the most out of the minimum. It's impossible. You have to raise volume all the time. Accumulation of volume is the key. I'm doing an experiment right now where I got someone working their hips every day. And what's happened is, the MR19? Mm-hmm. How about doing those all the way down with a green band on there?
Oh,
that's a bitch.
Yeah.
Now, that's saying something. See, it started out a mini band. It went to a monster, it went to a light, and now a green for reps, for like 10 reps. And why? Because at night and stuff, do special direct hip exercises. Front sled, back sled, uphill sled, sideways sled, a lot of leg raises, a lot of stuff. You name it, we're doing it. And it absolutely paid off. And I got a kid, Jarrett, when he showed up here, he could deadlift like 520. He's already pulled 6 now in a short period of time. He couldn't even lock out the Good Morning machine with a plate on it. You stand up, he couldn't stand up with the damn thing. I'm going like, you have no glutes. So that's what we do, work on glutes and hips. He paid attention, ultra wide sumos, jumps his deadlift right up.
How did you monitor progress in the gym that carries over to, just say, to the hammer, to football? What was those correlations?
To me, actually, most of it is the box jumps. You got to be strong. Especially if you're going through a hammer. Hammer's a little different than the other. You need stronger legs. It's a little bit different thing to different implements in throwing. Like the javelin, there's no distance. You can pick your own distance. You don't have a circle. So there's all kind of little things. But I had a silver medals in long jump in the last Olympics here, and he needed more acceleration. So I went out and I put him. We ran him here for I forgot what was it, like 4 seconds. But he ran from here to here. All right, and we put a cone down. Then we ran from here to here, and he exceeded. We picked up 2.5 meters on his approach, fast.
Crazy.
And I did it by not having run for time, because everyone would accommodate to it, and just go out there and jog along. But if you see that cone, you got to outrun that cone. There's that cone. You got to bypass that cone when I say stop, and they do it. And it just the change of the mental process means everything.
When they're when they go to the field and they go through their sport-specific movement and that is down, where do you suggest they turn back the volume? On the sport-specific, keep the gym, or is it a mixture of both?
Well, yeah, too many guys like the weights too much, and then too many guys only want to jump, don't like weights at all. There is a combination. You got to figure it out. You're absolutely right. It's hard to figure out for a lot of people. I found out in track, the reason I think you got a lot of track injuries, I watched it. And there's a book, faster running underground.
Oh, by Barry Ross?
Run. Yeah, by Barry Ross. And there's a study in there. The lady said, they said drop running 33%. So I did, because what was happening was, you go out and do max effort sprinting or whatever. I don't care if it's 120 or 40.
Yeah.
And they couldn't do the max effort weight together in the same week. So we dropped out the running and added the strength, and they ran faster. After all, a man runs faster than a boy. Why? Because he matures and he gets natural strength. Just raise the strength. Running is strength and power. You say what the hell you want. You can dream up any damn formula you think and make a book about it. But running, strength and power. Look at these freaking football players. If it wasn't for the money that they make, they would be the Olympic world record holders.
Yeah.
There is no doubt in my mind. And how they run, like a football player. They're not critiqued on how to run, right?
No.
They're more concerned, the runners are concerned with not only running, but they got to slow down and turn left to right, It's just not like an all-out burst. If they eliminate the left to right and the slow down, concentrate on this all out, they would be they'd be the world record holders. And they're just, what are they? Football players. Marvelous athletes,
When you get an athlete in, can you see that they're overtraining? Like by the way they handle the weights, the way they do accessory work?
Tom, so many guys come here and say, no, right now I got this pec injury, I got that. What the hell? How do you have all these injuries? Same thing with track. Remember a track girl years ago?
Yeah.
Come here, 6 years could not qualify for the hip. Always had a broken foot, a fractured shin, and this and that. She acted like that was part of the game. I go, what? 6 years could qualify. She was here 9 and rigged maybe one record of the events once a year. She's here for 9 weeks, qualifies for the hip for the first time nationally, and set broke her hurdle record, her 60 record, and the shot put record. And she called me on the phone. I'm going like, well, this is just. She was amazed. I'm going like, yeah, so what? You know what I mean?
Well, what was amazing?
That's what it's supposed to be.
What was amazing to me for that was in 21 days, the change. And that showed me was the higher the level of the athlete, when you dial in that training, in 3 weeks, they're a completely different person.
That's right.
And it wasn't as if you're doing in the gym 24/7. You're training as often as necessary. Yeah. That was the big, and 21 days in, the change was crazy.
That's what I tell everybody, 21 days. The body actually runs in cycles, 21, 23 day cycles. So, but for us, that's why we've always, if you look at Perlipin's chart, I look at the chart before it, and 50% of the greatest weightlifters in the world, 50% of the trades between 75 and 85%. All right? So I'm going, well, it's good enough for them, good enough for me. But what I realized later on, that's good for weightlifters. Weightlifters, I have to do the same thing. Powerlifters is in the slower streaks. We don't have to be fast with heavyweights. We just got to lift heavy weights. So we jumped it up 5%. And then, like I said, in the last 2 years, we broke over 10 world squat records. Yeah. Squat records. Benches, 3 benches, and about 3 or 4 totals. So it's undeniable. You can say what you want. You can do all the study you want. I got proof. Where's your freaking proof?
Well, and it's even outside of this gym. All the coaches who are reaching in, telling us what they're getting said the diversity of sport, from cricket to BMX to rugby to tennis, you name it, the diversity is out there. And every day we get more and more emails saying, hey, we just did this. And it's all little variations. And what they realize is like, look, we learned from Lou, we learned from Westside, but we're not at Westside, but how can we do it? Mm-hmm. So they adapted their system, and before you know it, they have all these results. And it's making little changes to the foundation.
Right.
And
it's important.
It's huge. And the best coach, like Dan DePasqua is a good coach to reference here. He realized Conjugate is everything. So he'll rotate stuff. He'll even rotate days, change stuff because he's able to do it with the team. Or he'll do stuff where they'll have grappling instead. They're one of the first teams to ever have a grappling coach on retainer. Their injury rates, all came from here.
Yeah.
But that's what people don't realize is that their injury rates in the off season was high, but weren't high injuries. And in season, next to nothing. Mm-hmm. And they have the most winning record of any rugby team, I believe, in the world.
Yeah. They always talk about off season. They say, what are you doing in the off season? Off season, I ain't got a freaking off season.
Yeah.
I told this before, but Worlds was in Columbus, the WPC Worlds, and Chuck Vogelpohl won it on a Sunday, of course. And so a bunch of Germans come to the the gym the next day. They come in and say, "Hey, man, what's up?" They come on in and go, "Hey, who's that back there doing good mornings?" I go, "That's Chuck Boogable." Said, "Didn't he lift?" I said, "No, I didn't lift. He won." I go, "Yeah." Well, a meet is ought to be a joke compared to training. And in my gym, a meet was a joke compared to training. Not only up, physically up here. If you didn't like to compete, by God, you were going to compete.
Yeah.
If you didn't want to max out the bench, you're maxing out the bench. You're going to throw your ass off. What happens in the contest? You want to throw the other opponent off, right?
Chaos.
Chaos, that's right. So it's actually controlled chaos, and it worked really good.
Well, it was, I can't remember who it was. They were afraid to compete in the crowd, so you had a bunch of people surround them, shouting at them. So went to a meet.
It was, Olympic champion.
So it's the gym is the answer for everything. If you if you're smart enough to figure it out. And I remember a lot of the guys, they didn't mind competing, but they hated going to the meets because it affected their training. Mm-hmm. They loved the train, like that. A meet was just a pain in the ass, but they had to do it for results.
Wait, the meet, that's right. The meets are results. You don't go to meet, we don't know anything about the results. So that's why we always looking for a meet. We're trying right now. We got a big meet in July. We're trying to get a push-pull about April.
Yeah.
And hopefully at show times. And so we know where we're at, so we can reflect on our training to where to go.
See, and that's important for all sports, because powerlifting is really like a boxer in a gym. You have your ring, you have that. But when you're a boxer training in a gym, you have to go back into the ring to get results to see, hey, am I in shape? Am I strong? Mm. That's where people, I think, don't do the best justice of the training system. They do too much in the gym, but they don't test where they're at, so they don't change it up.
We're afraid to.
Yeah,
I know some Olympic lifters, and one of my things about Olympic weightlifters, they don't take enough maxes. What the hell what are you afraid of? If you can't take a bigger weight, how are you going to lift a bigger weight? You can't run around doing 70 and 80% all your damn life. And, I think I got my own reasons. I won't bring it up why they do that. But, I mean, if Olympic, until 1972, they were asked us how to train in Olympic weightlifting. And at that time, a lot of our Olympic weightlifting and the champions were powerlifters. They did both.
Yeah.
Back then you mixed them up. Even bodybuilding and powerlifters worked a lot together, because powerlifting is basic bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is a shape, the leg extension is crap that we don't do. But I mean, is squat, bench, deadlift, curl, and row. That's, honestly, old man will tell you that's what it is. But then you modify it for bodybuilding because you're trying to build a body. Yeah. We're trying to build strength.
Well, and back to Jimmy Seitzer, when he was doing power building, he got more out of that than anyone.
Oh, yeah.
And it's you don't see very many of them nowadays, I think, because training and everything has evolved with it.
Yeah, I think philosophy. Philosophies change, and right or wrong, they do. And, you look at the bodybuilders today, it's nothing like what you had back then. I mean, Jesus.
Some of these guys say are crazy, like that Flex Lewis and all, it's insane. Back to how important was overhead pressing?
Overhead pressing, very important. I normally did all of ours seated, but like if you go back and look at the old timers that could really bench, like Pat Casey and these guys, bench 600 in I think 1970, maybe 69. A third of their training was overhead, incline, and then flat. So it was divided up into three. Kenny Patterson, George Halbert, Rob, and all these Kenny, Jerry O benched 705, the world record 728. He's full power lifter. They all did the same thing. Tons of overhead. And that overhead, for me, I had 3 lifts. I'm not the greatest bencher. I made like the bottom of the top 10 a lot for 22 years. Yeah. And I'm not a bencher. I did it, believe it or not, this little brain I got, because I made great benchers and I did what I had them do. But it was a steep incline, super steep, standing up on a bench. Close grip. I made 370. Yeah. I make a record, my bench went up. JM press, 405 for 3, my bench went up. I like to do a lot in the power rack where the bar touches your chest. I lower the pins 2 inches. I use a 5-inch camber bar, take it down in my face, and there, my best is 405 for 1. I broke the incline or the JM, my bench was up, straight up. That was my common denominator. Yeah. I didn't want to go test the bench. I tell people, if you go kick my ass, and I'm not going to show up your house next week trying to kick ass, you kick my ass again over and over and over and over. I'm going to go learn how to do it. Yeah. And so I use those 3 things, tons of upper back work, for instance. But me, I wanted to get strong. Me and Chuck Vogel come up, what do we do? More reverse hypers.
Yeah.
That's all we did. Heavy reverse hyper.
Why?
It's accumulation of volume, I'm telling you.
Why are people so afraid for overhead pressing, especially for shot putters, throwers, fighters, and baseball players? A lot of they're like, oh, we're afraid to overhead press them.
Well, I heard that from football coaches. I said, dude, you're going to have to get your arms over your head.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you overhead press? I heard that a lot. I won't say where. NFL coaches.
But is it because they know they haven't done the job and they're so weak in the shoulders that they're to do it, or?
I think you look at it backwards because they got their hands over their head blocking, and got their shoulders hurt, so they'll do it. But if they did it in the first place, they wouldn't get hurt. That makes sense?
Yeah. How important was rows and upper back work for anyone for anything rowing for anyone who throws forward? Is that important?
Very good, yeah. Upper back. When I was working with the Browns a little bit, Tommy Malinsky, he had a bench up here that you laid straight down, flat down on, and it was a row bench. You know, you did rows like that. You know, we used the pec deck, barbell, dumbbell. Get down my gym right now, like, you know, watch Rob, all the freaking rows this guy does.
Yeah.
You look at him, delts on him. I mean, tons and tons of Joe.
Yeah.
Tons of rows. You know, they used to say, well, Eddie Cohn told me, whatever you deadlift, you should be able to do a row, barbell row, half of that. And that made sense. I mean, it sounds like phenomenal, but it does make sense.
Yeah. On that, Lou, I think we're going to start wrapping it up. Is there anything else you want to get out to talk about Jud, or for hammer throwing or football? Or?
Well, Jud was a great man. Like I said, I met him and I saw him. He's a great coach. It's hard to see these guys go, especially at a young age, because they got so much more to teach people, you know. That's why I'm trying to hang around.
Yeah.
If I could just get a little bit more words out and, you know, help someone, like maybe get them in the NFL or whatever, make a bunch of money. I mean, what this world's about. It's a lot better than that than driving a trash truck. Yeah. So, you know, that's the only reason I do it. And also, I had a lot of injuries. I did not know what I was doing. You know, I won't go through it, but I told you I was on crutches in 73 for 10 freaking months. That was the beginning. I don't want to see people hurt. One thing in my gym, I don't want to see people get hurt. And how many is he? Very few. Yeah. Hardly anyone gets hurt down there. They don't even pair a pec. Yeah. They don't hurt a pec. They don't hurt his shoulder. They don't pull a ham. Why? We got when Dr. Siff, you know, for super training came here, first thing he was amazed that we do soft tissue training. He says, no one does soft tissue. I said, well, we do. Yeah. We do hundreds of band curls for the hamstrings and the triceps and the push downs and, you know, you name it. I mean, neck and all this. That's why we don't have those soft tissue injuries. I think they're worse than an injury is an injury.
How important it is to you right now having all the people who follow us and read your books and are actually implementing? Because over the last few years, we're seeing more and more people are like, okay, this makes sense. Because they're implementing, they're actually doing it. But was that always your goal, was to educate people and to have this dynasty of people okay, injury rates are low, performance is through the roof, and guess what, you're self-sufficient. Once you know it, you don't need a coach, you can coach yourself. Right. Was that always the goal?
That was always my goal. I didn't want to work with kids. I just wanted to work with, actually powerlifters, but then I got some track and I got, fighters come through and just help them a little bit. But my goal was just to teach people how to train because, like I said, way back, how come you make me? Well, I hurt myself. Wait, I hurt myself. What the hell's going on here? That's why I just wanted to spread a method of training that's safe and very efficient. Don't take hours to do. You get in and do it, and you get out and you go. For us, it's normally 4 big workouts and 4 small workouts is what it is. If you got time to do it. If you want to be best, you got to train. I don't care what sport it is, So that's basic. But you got to train what? Like my friend Sicario, he always said it does no good to train, what you don't need. Yeah. Train what you need. Don't train what you don't need. That's a simple thing, but it's true. Too many guys get fit, like the guy could not squat. I said, dude, you got no ass. You can't sit back. So what you do? Leg press, leg press. I said, you are the dumbest freaking person I've ever known. So the squat goes nowhere. What do you go? Back to leg press. I go, oh, Christ.
Go back to what they always know.
But remember, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it swim.
There's a big thing, too, that you said, I think it was yours, that Westside is not just a physical location, it's a state of mind.
Yes.
So when you can take what you learn and we're seeing it, like from kindergarten kids to the NFL, they're taking iterations of that. And I think a lot of people don't understand. They don't understand where bands like you got Dick Hartsaw. Then from there, you guys went, put them on machines, boards, pin presses, sleds, the belt squat, the ATP, the inverse. Everything originated. Like it's nearly gone to a point where people are like, oh, they just take it because it's in common exercises. But it all originated from this one gym, which is crazy.
A lot of people don't even know it. I used to go and talk at universities, and they'd be talking about my stuff and don't even know it was my stuff.
Yeah.
I just sat back there and go, oh, who gives a damn? You know, as long as they're doing it, I don't care. They don't even realize where this stuff came from.
Yeah.
I went to one down in Florida, and the guy's talking about his guys are pulling two plates on a sled. We're going, 2 plates?
Yeah.
Yeah, freaking 10-year-old kids pulling 2 plates. But, you know, how many people think they got a fast car? You know, it goes 17 and a quarter. And then you run into a guy's got a car that goes 8 and a quarter. You know what I mean? They don't know.
Yeah.
If you run with the lame, you develop a limb.
Yeah.
Hang around the best. Never associate with people less than yourself. Ever. You know, it's your downfall.
Rise up to your competition.
That's right. You want to fight and scratch for everything you got, man. When you don't do that, then you're done.
Have you got anything else? That's all I have.
No, I just hope everybody has a good New Year's, and I wish Jud's family good luck, and I guess we'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you.